You know, I first became interested in incense when I was a kid. It always fascinated me how such a simple thing, little tiny cone of incense, could completely change an environment. I was probably in 7th grade when I first started buying incense and using it in my room, much to my father's chagrin. But what I discovered is my ordinary little bedroom could be instantaneously transformed into a mystic temple, a distant mountain, just by lighting this little cone of incense. I used to buy cheap synthetic incense at a bookstore in the mall, because my family pretty much lived in bookstores when I was a kid, which I think is a good thing. And so it was just kind of natural for me, once I developed this love, you know, I'd buy a book and I'd buy some incense, and so the two became kind of intertwined for me. And it was inevitable that I would become a writer anyway. It's just part of my nature. But it's interesting to me how my writing began at the same time as I discovered incense. So not surprised that my very first book would be about incense. My third book would be about incense. But in the 10 years since that book has come out, it's really become a handbook for a lot of people who thought that incense making was difficult, or it was too challenging, or it was too time consuming, or it was too expensive. There are all these myths about incense and incense making. You can go through your entire life and never make any incense on your own, because there are some wonderful, terrific, natural, commercial incense that are available. But nothing is a substitute for things that you've crafted yourself. Commercial incense and handcrafted incense each have their place. But even if you choose to never make incense yourself, you should at least learn about incense so you know what you're buying. You can be an informed consumer. So in November 2014, the second edition of Incense, Crafting and Use of Magical Scents, comes out. So I've doubled the number of recipes and doubled the number of ingredients and just added a whole lot of things that I've been fortunate enough to learn over the years. You know, I've tried to incorporate the feedback that everyone has given me about the first version of the book into the second edition. So I hope everyone will enjoy, and you'll find something new and special in the new version. So I count myself very lucky. I'm very, very grateful. I want to just stop and say thank you to everyone who's bought one of my books, read one of my books. Libraries are wonderful things. You don't have to buy the books, but I appreciate it when you do. The people who have come to my workshops, and I really appreciate the people who have written me, who have joined my incense making groups online, the people who send me the experiments and the wonderful scents that they create, and the people who tell me that, you know, they were inspired because I showed them the simplicity of it. One of the greatest things since I have started lecturing and doing workshops and publishing books has been the huge array of people that I have met over the years. I tell every workshop and every class that I do that I'm going to learn at least as much from the people in that workshop as they're going to learn from me, because I learn new stuff every time. I've literally done the Incense Making 101 workshop, I seriously think, close to 1,000 times. I've done it certainly hundreds of times, and I learn something new every time, and I have fun every time. Even if only 2 people show up to the workshop, or like here recently at PantheaCon 2014, where we had over 100 people in the workshop, all making incense together. It's always fun. It's always a good time. I always learn things. The people who attend always learn things. And that's really one of the keys to the pagan culture in America, is that we're so willing to share, and we always have been. Book publishing is newer to the pagan world than sharing of knowledge, which goes back as far as we can look. You know, I've been really, really lucky in the course of my life, especially since I started walking a pagan path, that I have encountered some very, very wonderful people who share their knowledge. That's really why I've written about incense, is because so many people were kind enough to teach me about their traditions or their practices. I am by no means the ultimate authority on incense. I'm just very lucky to have met a lot of people who have shared their knowledge with me, and in turn I'm trying to do the same thing. A lot of people are unfortunately under the impression that they're allergic to incense when in fact they're not. A lot of the incense, the vast majority of the incense that's burned in the United States is made using synthetic fragrance oils and extenders and all kinds of synthetic materials, many of which, including the most popular extender that's used in synthetic incense making, that they were never intended to be burned. If you study the safety information about them, they're wonderful if they're used how they're supposed to be used, in lotions and in soaps. But when you ignite them, it causes a chemical change, and some of these materials become dangerous when they're ignited. So a lot of people who think that they're allergic to incense are actually having a very normal physical reaction to these synthetic chemicals. And many people are surprised when they get exposed for the first time to natural incense that they don't have those kinds of allergic reactions. Now, some people have an allergic reaction to particulate material. Any kind of smoke is going to disturb them. But for most people, making the switch from synthetic to natural incense also gets rid of headaches and all kinds of associated breathing problems that come with some types of synthetic incense. It's amazing how many different cultures have embraced incense. I can't think of a single culture who has turned, pardon the pun, turned its nose up at incense. So it's a part of everyone's heritage. And I'm just glad that I can show people that it's not difficult. And I'm just really proud that I get to be part of the long chain of history of incense. And I can't wait to see what the next generation of incense makers does. I'm always shocked and surprised by people, and always in a pleasant way. And so I really look forward to seeing what people produce now. And I hope that with the expanded version, the second edition of Incense Crafting and Use, that people will find even deeper inspiration with new binders and new recipes and all sorts of new ingredients. And I hope that you will keep an eye out for my other projects. I am the producer of 2 pagan-oriented television shows, The Pentaclock News and Magic Moment. You'll find us at pagantv.org if you'd like to check it out. I also write about things other than incense and lecture and do workshops about other things. I hope that anyone out there who organizes festivals, conventions, that you would consider bringing me in to do some incense making workshops and lots of other workshops as well. I always have a blast when I get to travel to new places and meet new people. Blessed be.